When gun violence erupts in America, the local mayor is often the first to try to comfort families and heal the community. There have been more than 35,000 incidents of gun violence so far this year, blamed for more than 9,200 deaths. 261 of those are considered mass shootings. Adriana Diaz spoke to 4 mayors, one of whom had to respond to a massacre less than 2 weeks ago. They're part of a growing bipartisan chorus of local politicians pushing Congress to take action on guns. Adriana, what are they asking for?
Well, the mayors want the Senate to vote on bipartisan universal background check bills that the House already passed. Mayor Nan Whaley of Dayton, Bobby Dyer of Virginia Beach, and Christine Hunchofsky of Parkland have all had to help their cities heal after mass shootings. We also spoke with Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser about daily urban gun violence. They all say it's time for action. Mayor Whaley, how is your community doing?
We're in the process of grieving, and so people are in different places right now. I've been really amazed by just the togetherness of the community and how cohesive it's been. And I think, there's still some shock out there.
Mayor Hunchofsky, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, the first week, shock is probably the best way to describe it. When a mass shooting happens, and it happens in a place it's quote unquote not supposed to happen, you lose trust in everything.
You have called this now a fraternity. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
It means it's a fraternity no one ever wanted to join. There is no playbook. There's nothing that prepares a mayor for this type of incident.
Have mayors reached out to give you their best practices?
Yeah, I think, so it's hundreds of mayors, and that's been very touching.
One of those hundreds was Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who met with Mayor Whaley before our panel discussion.
When you reached out to Mayor Whaley, what did you say?
I just shot her a message that we loved her, we're with her, and I know how resilient the people of Dayton are, but I also know that they want to see change.
Bowser, Whaley, Hunchofsky, and Dyer have all signed a letter to Senate leaders Mitch McConnell and Charles Schumer, demanding that the Senate approve 2 universal background check bills that the House passed in February.
Mayors quickly move around the issue of gun control because it affects our communities so directly. You saw this past week 254 mayors sign a letter to say, hey, Senate, get to work and pass background checks.
In all 3 of your cases, shooters passed background checks. So why do you see that as the answer?
Universal background checks tied to risk protection orders together can make a difference. I'm hopeful that we're starting to see this movement happen now.
You see that as a first step?
I do.
Yes.
This could just start with that one conversation with, the background checks, where they might be able to find consensus. But then once you start the dialogue, then you can go into the heavier things.
Do you want to see an assault weapons ban?
Right now, with the partisanship going on, I think we have to establish the base first before we have that, before the conversation. Let's start with the background checks.
But eventually, I do think, the way to get rid of these shootings is to get rid of assault weapons. And I don't understand why anybody would need the kind of gun that was on the Oregon District Saturday night that killed 9 people in 32 seconds.
People make the argument that even if you had no guns in this country, you still will have incidents where there are mass casualties, which we have seen in this country.
Yes, we have.
But you won't see 250. I think that's the point. The guns are just so easy to get a hold of.
You are a Republican mayor. You had this incident happen in your community. Did you change your views on gun control?
I am more acutely aware. I honestly think right now, the pro-gun people have good points and bad points, and the same is true for the opposition.
What would you say to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell? You are a member of his party. You have been there. You have seen this up close. What would you say to him to bring about the policy changes you want to see?
Listen and learn from other people. Take the opportunity to figure out, there may be better ways of doing things.
Can I just say, too, this whole dichotomy of it's a partisan issue, it's only a partisan issue in Washington, D.C.
Correct.
94% of Americans say universal background checks. It's not partisan in the streets of Dayton, in the streets of Virginia Beach, or on the streets of Parkland.
What Mayor Whaley said is spot on in the business world. You don't see a problem and you have 2 people in the company who say, well, I think this is the answer, and the other person calls them then names and says, no, I think this is the answer, and then they both just go away and don't do anything. That is not leadership. That is not representation. And I think that is what you hear often that the American people are just sick of.
It's an issue the mayors say affect all their cities, whether they experience mass shootings or urban gun violence.
They're all connected to the prevalence of guns and guns unchecked in our nation. We need to keep handguns out of the hands of people who have proven that they're going to do damage with those guns.
Do you think this is the moment?
I just pray it is.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said recently he will consider measures to reduce gun violence when the Senate returns in September. He says he's open to stricter background checks.
That was one of the things I remember Mayor Whaley last week after the Dayton and El Paso shootings, when she said all these mayors had called her. That's when it really struck me that, you know, how
I love
prevalent.
her point she made.
Yes.
That she said this is only a partisan issue in Washington, D.C.
Right. And that it is a fraternity no one wants to join, but it's so big now.
They're talking mostly about background checks, but we heard Bobby Dyer there mention the assault weapons ban. On our air, we've been doing reporting that has facts on the ground that led to the ban in '94, and that's not only mass shootings, but we've seen criminals using high-powered weapons against police, both in California and then Jerika's reporting out of Philadelphia. That's the context here.
And I like they all say we got to start somewhere. I mean, we're all feeling so desperate about this situation.
That's where they all agree. They represent different parties, but they agree on that first step.
Yeah. Adriana, thank you very much. Powerful interviews.